As I'm getting set up, I see this tweet from @Godot is wing for you. It's 2004. I'm 14. Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green have released. The US is engaged in war in the Middle East. It's 2026. I'm 35 years old. Fire Red and Leaf Green have released. The US is engaged in war in the Middle East. And then there's a response from Zach Hazard. It's 2006. I'm 20 years old. I'm playing a new Resident Evil game. The US is engaged in war in the Middle East. It's 2026. I'm 40 years old. I'm playing a new Resident Evil game. The US is engaged in war in the Middle East. Nothing ever changes. I know I constantly joke about how, we live in hell, but we do truly live in a hell of our own making. And it is also a time loop, which is equally bad. Because time loops fucking suck. Alright. Give me 1 second and we'll get started with Pokemon. Alright, so if I hit this, I go over here, and I think I click this one. Yep, there we go, TCG Pocket. Here we are, back again. It's been a little bit. So we have a new set, Paldean Wonders. I should probably split. We're going to open up, 20, 30 packs. I've got some hourglasses. Oh, okay, wait. I'm 2 minutes away from getting a free pack. Let's bam for 2 minutes to get that free pack. So, what do I have to say? Yeah, it's fucking crazy that we're just in a time loop. Nothing has not changed. We're about to get a new... We just got a re-release of Fire Red. We're gonna get a new Pokemon game next year. But yeah, it's fucking crazy. They killed the Ayatollah Khomeini. I was not that's fucking wild. Is Trump gonna go after Cuba next? He's marking these people off. I know one of the US's biggest failures is that they couldn't take out Castro. Are they just gonna go after whoever's in charge of Cuba? Is the US gonna do that again? That sounds like something Trump would... Because Trump is very much obsessed. Everybody's 14, but Trump still treats the world like it was when he was 14 years old. So, Cuba is still a major threat. The U.S. needs Greenland because it's strategic for the Cold War. Yeah, I don't think anything will be different. So, at the last set, I was 15 cards away. I was trying so hard to finish the last set. I never got the Guard of War. I never got the Mega. I never got the Immersive Art. I think that's what they're called. I tried, man. I tried so hard and... Nope, instead I got all this other stuff. Yeah, I was just missing 15 cards. Alright, it should be ready. There we go. Let's open up our one free pack, and then we'll open up all the others. Squawkabilly, Penny, Charcadet, Tinkaduff. Only one new card in that. Wow. So, a lot of these cards did get spoiled for me by the Pokemon Day, weirdly enough. I had no idea. I knew Masquerado was a thing. I knew a few of them. But I did not know the immersive art was Arvin until, Pokemon Day showed it off. Okay, we got at least 2 Sparkle packs. So we're going to have to see what's in those. Those are... I know one of them was pack 9. I don't know what the other sparkles was. Another Chiyu. You think anyone's ever pulled a pack with like 3 or 4 cards in a row? Okay, this is one of them. Oh, Star Grunt. Nickit. It's a shiny. Oh, shiny Entei. Okay, that's not bad. There's something in the back of this one as well. Oh, look at the mouse hold. There's so many different... There's, what, 3 different pairs of mice, and one of them is a family of 3? I like Mousehold a lot. I used one in my Violet playthrough. It actually did pretty good. I think this is, yeah, this is the other one. And a Graveyard. I think Graveyard is okay. I do not care for its evolution, Houndstone, but Graveyard's kind of cute. I don't know, I just don't really care for the Gen 9 dog Pokemon. There's 6 of them. And, they're all okay. Darkspon's the best one. I like Fido. Okay, I like Fido. Darkspon's, yeah, it's okay. 666, wow. You know, we gotta make good progress on this. Yeah, we're over half. That's nice. Alright, let's open another 10. Again, there's sparkles about halfway through, and then at pack 9. Oh god, look at that Mabostiff card. Oh my gosh. Misagoza. Oh, it's a shiny Tinkatuff. I booted up Legend ZA just to do that new event, and I found a Tinkatuff thing, and I was like, oh, come on. Because I have some of the shinies. I have shiny Tinkaton, but I don't have the middle one. And I was like, come on, give it to me. It didn't. I also tried for shiny Sableye. Also wouldn't give it to me. Yeah, Tinkaton. So it's a small... We're getting all the shinies. I thought shinies were supposed to be rare. The fact that we haven't gotten a single EX really surprises me. Because, God, that was all 10 packs. Yeah, look at that Mabostiff. Oh my gosh. I like Arven's Mabostiff. That's the... I do not care for Mabostiff's design, but I like Arven's. Alright, we're just missing a little over 20 cards. But I know most of them are EXs and whatnot. I know we're missing Palafin, for example. Okay, there was one at like pack 7. Darkspawn. I like its foreign name is like... Oh, it's something good. I can't remember it, but it's... Darkspawn's foreign name is also really good. Okay, there's Armor Rouge. Nice. I don't think Cerulege is an EX. I'm pretty sure Cerulege is just like a... Not hollow. Whatever the 2-star is. I haven't seen Dondozo. I don't know if Dondozo is in this set. Whatever these are called. I don't know what these are called. But yeah, Arbolov. Alright, we got something back here. Gimme Ghoul. Palmo? Is this... This is a different than the one we got, right? Yeah, that's one of the other stages. I hate how similar they all look. There's... Oh, I guess I already had Dondozo. There's something back here. Another graveyard. Alright, last pack magic. Oh, the Gimme Ghoul. I really like... I've seen the card, this card in real life, where it's got the Gimme Ghoul on the bottom and the Goldingo on the top. It is a cool card. And I know they're both in this set. Alright, so I still need them. I still need a few things. But I'm a little more than 10. I'm what? 14 away? So I'll keep working on that. Hey, I leveled up. Not bad, not bad. I haven't even done my like login bonuses. And for Pokemon's 30th anniversary, there's a 30th anniversary event going on. So you also gotta make sure to do that. We didn't get Skeledirge. I don't think it's an EX. Oh, there's a Belly Bolt and Goldingo. I do not. I made a Goldingo deck with the one from one of the previous sets. It sucked. Whatever the previous Goldingo set was awful. Because it was all luck-based. And trying to get lucky... Oh my god, I was so unlucky. First partner. I still call them starters. When I was doing the show notes for today, I was like, oh yeah, it's the first partner Pokemon. I'm still just going to write it down as starters. Because we'll talk about the website today. The Wind and Waves website. We're not going to look at it, but I wrote some stuff down. Oh, we got a Mousehold one. Alright, we got one more pack to open, because they gave us one here in Mission Rewards. Toxel, Jawfossil, Indeedee, Curlia, Tyra. Nothing. Nothing there, just plenty of stuff I already have. Again, I'm like 10 away. Alright, there we go. There's that. Let me kill that. And we'll get into 3D World. Oops. Did not mean to hit that. Alright, so for today's show, we got technically 2 news stories. One of them I broke up into 2 parts. So it's technically more than that, but it's basically 2 news stories for all intents and purposes. So we got 2 news stories. We have WIBE. We got 2 food things. One that, sure, we might as well talk about. And then the Big Arch Burger finally came out. We'll, of course, talk about that more when we get to it. We have... I saw a movie. We got 2 books to talk about. Well, okay, I finished one. I started the other. And then we might have a few other things. You know, we'll see what else is up our sleeve. Maybe I'll talk about Animal Crossing. Maybe I'll talk about My Dress Up Darling, which I did finally start. So we have a few things. But yeah, we're going to go for, I don't know, I wanted today to be a shorter one. Maybe we'll go for like 2 hours. I don't know. You never know with these sorts of things. I would like to aim for that, but my luck has been bad. We've been going long recently. Most of our recent shows have been, like last week we went for 3 hours, almost. Week before that we definitely did. Week before that we went for 2.5. Week before that we went for 3. Week before that we went for 4. Yeah, I would love to do like 2 hours tonight, but we'll see how it plays out. And then here we are in 3D World. Ah, fuck, I forgot to change that. Still have it set up for the Pokemon Direct.
Super Mario 3D World!
Alright, so let's talk about gaming news. We got 2 stories tonight. Our first big one is, or our first one that I just wanted to talk about really quickly is Wolverine. The Wolverine game that is being made by Insomniac? Yeah, Insomniac. Got a release date, so I want to quickly talk about that. Maybe talk about the conspiracy theories, which I don't really buy. And we'll talk about why. And, of course, it was Pokemon Day yesterday. The big thing was Pokemon, Pokemon's 30th anniversary. They had their big presents yesterday. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the new Pokemon Gen 10 games. And everything along that lines. Alright, so let's talk Wolverine. So, Insomniac Games, previously, was it October last year? At some point last year, they re-revealed the Wolverine, their new game, and it was like, oh, look how exciting this is. It's been a long time since we've heard anything about Wolverine. Yeah, let's do it. I'm trying to find out when it was. When did they... Oh no, it was September. Okay, it was September 24th, 2025. And so when they revealed the Wolverine, it was like, okay, cool. And they said at the time that we'd find out more in spring, with it coming out in fall of 2026. So I figured, we were going to have a little bit more time until we hear anything. There was a state of play 2 weeks ago, and when we didn't hear anything about Wolverine, I didn't even really think about it. I'll be honest, I don't even know when we talked about the state of play if I even brought up the fact that Wolverine didn't show up. Just because I wasn't really thinking about it. Because again, they said spring, so I figured, we'd get something more in March or April, or, potentially May, but I would have hoped before that. And yeah, we just didn't get anything, and I wasn't surprised, and I'm willing to wait. So all of a sudden this week, on Tuesday or Wednesday, just randomly they drop, hey, guess what? Marvel's Wolverine is coming out September 15th, 2026. So it's coming out in 6 months. A little bit more than that. But it's right around the corner. This is when Bethesda actually reveals a game. Or when Nintendo does stuff. Because they're, for every Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom or Elder Scrolls 6, there's a Fallout 4, which is just oh yeah, this game's coming out in 4 months. And, we're getting the big reveal now. Or, you get a Super Mario Wonder, which was, I think, 6 months. Sometimes it's just really random like that. And yeah, Wolverine, I was expecting October. Admittedly, I want to say at the time when we watched the State of Play, because I did live react to that one. I want to say my prediction at the time was October. So September is not a bad release date, especially because at this moment, we are presuming that the GTA 6 release date holds. Which currently the GTA 6 release date is November 19th. So obviously you want to get out before then. And normally, again, I would have said October. But I feel like you have enough time that you could have, waited. October, it's still fine. But September, okay. I'm not against this release date at all. It's more just how they revealed it. Like, if this had been in the state of play 2 weeks ago, yeah, okay, that would have made perfect sense. It's earlier than we expected, but people like that. And that was a really good state of play. But no, just randomly on Twitter, they drop a video, it shows like art of Wolverine, and then gives us the September 15th release date. We didn't get a new trailer or anything, just a date. And so, of course, it's brought up some conspiracies. What's right? Why just drop this? The most obvious one, and I think the one that is correct, is that, of course, there isn't any conspiracy theory. It's just, you know, on development of a game, you have certain thresholds where it's like, okay, we need to be at this point by this date if we're going to hit this release date. You know, the game has to go gold. Usually it's about a month before release for it to actually hit that release date. So maybe Wolverine 2 weeks ago, they hadn't hit that threshold, and so they weren't comfortable showing it at the state of play, but since then, maybe they have hit that threshold. You know, some sort of thing where they're like, okay, we now definitively do have a date. You know, we're comfortable enough saying this delayed without, you know, expecting any major delays. And I think that makes sense. I think this is the most likely outcome, is that they're ready to show it off. And sure, they could wait a few more months, but getting the release date out there means you can start doing marketing campaigns. I mean, sure, that doesn't stop some people. I'm looking at Nintendo with Metroid Prime 4, where, like, you know, the one trailer they put out beforehand had a wrong release date. And then the second thing they put out was, like, 2 months after the game released. I'm looking at you, Nintendo, and your what are those? Like, what the fuck? Regardless. Yeah, maybe, you know, this might just be to get marketing in place. Because, again, you're coming up, potentially, against Grand Theft Auto 6, the biggest game unequivocally on the planet. You need to start getting your face out there now before the GTA 6 marketing campaign takes over. And that's all anybody can and will talk about. Because it's fucking GTA 6. I get it. I do think that's a logical thing. I think this is the most likely reason. The conspiracy theorists, though, give another reason, which is this is to distract from Blue Point. That, you know, Sony confirmed that they're closing down Blue Point, and so people, obviously, you know, they need some sort of news to distract them. Which, in any other world, I would say, like, yes, it's a conspiracy theory, but I see the possibility. I would have agreed until Friday last week, when they announced that Phil Spencer was stepping down from Xbox. The moment that happened, nobody gave a shit about Sony closing Blue Point. I've talked before. People will be mad at something until something new happens, and then they all forget and get mad at somebody else. Right? On a macro scale, on a micro scale, this works in both micro and macro. In micro, Sony closing down Blue Point was the thing that everybody got mad about. Then a few days later, you know, Phil Spencer left Xbox, Sarah Bound was left on her own terms, let's put it like that. And everybody got mad at that. And that's the new thing everyone's complaining about. So, no, Sony did not have to reveal the release date to distract from this. Microsoft more than did their job for them. So I don't believe that conspiracy theory at all. You know. And I mean, even if there's a Pokemon thing coming out, the internet loves to be mad at because now, you know, we've moved on from the Xbox thing, and now everybody's mad at the new Pokemon thing. Guess what? Grifters have to grift. And they're just going to grift on whatever the new thing is. So they move on from one thing to another. So no, I don't believe in any of the conspiracy theories. It's just how it was. I do hope we see some, because I do want, you know, to see more. I thought the reveal back in September looked fine. I was not as blown away as some other people were. Some other people were really blown away by, you know, the Wolverine's reveal. And I thought it was fine. I just didn't think it was as good as other people did. Yeah, it looked fine. I'll fully admit, I'm not a big Wolverine guy. I like Spider-Man. Wolverine, I mean, he's cool, sure, but I'm a Spider-Man guy at the end of the day. What can I say? Even if I fucking hate Peter Parker. And I fucking hate comic book. I fucking hate comic book Peter Parker, man. Like, God. Fucking comic books, man. I saw something where it was like, comic book shops are gonna stop selling Marvel comics because nobody wants to fucking read them anymore because they're so bad. And, well, yes, that was probably just, you know, one store, a conspiracy theory thing. I don't blame them. Marvel Comics is so fucking stuck in editorial. And just their stupid fucking bullshit. And, you know, trying to appeal to the movies. I like the movies. But I'm so fucking sick of them. God. And God, don't even get me started on that whole DC Allies thing that's been going on, where DC fans are so thirsty that they're literally making up a game because of how desperate they are for nothing. Because, well, they used to be eating good. You know, Papa Warner Brothers is now being sold to, what, fucking Paramount? And they're never gonna eat again. I didn't even put that in the show notes. It's like, it's not even worth my time. Oh, wow, Netflix isn't buying DC anymore. Surprise, surprise. So, I should say, with this run of 3D World, we are not going to be going for all the green stars. At least on our first run through of a level. Maybe on, like, second play, maybe... Because I do want to 100% this game. So maybe we'll go back later on and get all the green stars. But if on, you know, our first run we don't get them, it's no big deal. That's fine. I can always go back and get it all later. But, you know, we'll still try to get everything. Just, you know, if we miss it, I'm not gonna, like, beat myself up over it. We're not gonna replay a level just because I missed it. At least that's not my plan at the moment. Again, there's the post game. So yes, I am excited for Wolverine. I want to know more. I'm sure in the next 2 months we will find out more. But for the moment, hey, we have a release date now, which is good. Alright, let's talk Pokemon Day. So I'm going to go over everything that happened on Pokemon Day. I did live react to this. I even posted a highlight on TikTok. That hasn't happened in a while. But I did that. You can go find that over there. I'm going to go over everything, give my thoughts. I personally felt very, like, milquetoast about this Pokemon Day. Like, there was no real surprise. It sucks that everything got leaked. And, like, if things hadn't been leaked, like, maybe I would have been more excited. There are some good things. But overall, I wasn't, like... I didn't think it was bad. I just wasn't super impressed. Like, thank God the starters hadn't been leaked. Well, okay, technically the starters were leaked on... Because, you know, not every leak is real. But every real leak I've seen came from 4chan. And yeah, someone posted beta designs for the starter on 4chan the night before, and just nobody believed them. And then they turned out to be right. It happens all the time, especially with Pokemon. But I didn't see those posts until afterwards, because at the time, nobody believed them. So, yeah, at least the starters weren't leaked, but we kind of knew everything else. We've seen, you know, beta footage and whatnot. But, of course, we got to talk about everything else. So, of course, the show starts with a little, like, montage. This year's one was all about, like, the title screens. Like, the big merch for Pokemon's 30th anniversary is all about the title screen. And yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of get it. The title screen, the Nidorina versus Gengar is iconic in a way. Mainly in just that, you know, we've seen it for 30 years. So that's the big thing they're doing merch about. It makes sense. And so we have that. We see all the different intros. And then they go into their first announcement, which is the Pokemon Game Music Collection. So this is a little mini Game Boy. You know, the OG Game Boy. Not a Game Boy Micro, just an OG Game Boy. That you can plug these cartridges into. And on these cartridges, they contain different bits of music. So you'll like play a cartridge and it'll have a song from the game, and then you can pull the cartridge out and plug in a different one and it'll play a different song. And it's got 45 cartridges for 45 songs. I don't know if that's the total. From what they said during the thing, it sounded like that's the total number of songs in the original Pokemon. I don't know if that's true, but if you told me, oh yeah, Gen 1 only had 45 songs in it, I would in no way be surprised. You know, it was a Game Boy game, and it was a Game Boy game that they crammed fucking everything into. You know, no stone left unturned, as you would say. Now, from what I've seen from the pictures of this, it's not like, oh, well, you can either buy a Fire Red version or a red version or a blue version. No, you get both. Like, if you buy the bundle, either, so like half the cartridges will be Pokemon Red, the other half of the cartridges will be Pokemon Blue. That's what it seems like from the pictures on the Pokemon website. Because, yeah, it's available today. You know, if you want, you can go buy it right now. I don't know how many people are actually going to buy this. But, you know, it's a thing that they're doing. And what about the price? The price is $70. I said this during the stream. I much rather would have just... If they had sold a Game Boy Mini, where it's a little Game Boy replica that can play the original Pokemon Red or Blue, and that was it. Like, it didn't do much else. And it basically like the NES Mini they released a few years ago. Oh god, that was probably a decade ago now. If they had just done that, I would have been fine with that. I would have happily paid probably, you know, $60-70 for it. But a music player doesn't really do much for me. If I'm just being honest. Next up, they talked about the Pokemon World Championships. The Pokemon World Championships are in August this year, being held in San Francisco. And of course, as well as the championships, they have Pokemon XP, which is, you know, the Pokemon experience. So while you can go see all the big competitive games, you know, they're holding the championships this year at the Chase Center. Largest crowd. They expect to have the largest crowd ever for one of these Pokemon events. They also do, you know, the Pokemon experience, which is all about, you know, merchandise and collectibles and cosplay competitions. I don't know. For listening to Greg Miller talk about it last year, because he took his son to go see it, they had a great time, from what it sounds like. And this year it's in San Francisco, where, you know, Kinda Funny is at. So hopefully we see some more from them this year. And yeah, I don't know. The Pokemon World Championships, it seems like a lot of fun. I've never been. It's not really in the budget. But from people who have been, you know, they always talk about what a great time it is. God, I already need more water. Next up, they talked about the trading card game, where since it is the 30th anniversary, they're going to be doing a 30th anniversary set with a bunch of reprints of, you know, classic cards, some of which I do recognize, and at least I definitely owned that Palkia card. I could probably go through my old card, because I still have all my old cards. At least, I hope I do. They definitely have taken on some water damage over the years. But I still, in theory, have them, and I bet I still have that Palkia somewheres. But But yeah, again, I'm not getting into the trading cards. I know, you know, we've talked on the show in the past about, you know, how physical cards are better than digital cards. And I do agree, but also I just refuse to spend money on that. Like, I got back into Lego, and Lego has taken up all my fucking money. And I refuse to be like, oh, here's, you know, another thing that I'm just gonna waste my money on. Especially because I'm more of a collector than I am, like, I don't really care about battling. Like, that's why Pokemon Champions doesn't really do much for me, is because I'm just not a battle guy. So, like, if I were to get back into the cards, I'd just be collecting them to collect them. And that's no fun. They talked about Pokemon Go, and I guess so previously in Pokemon Go, I guess you could only get first stage Pokemon as shiny. So, like, if you wanted to get a shiny, you could only get, like, a first stage Mon. But I guess they changed it recently, where now any Pokemon can be shiny. So, you know, before you couldn't get, like, a shiny Charizard, you could only get shiny Charmander. And now, no. If you want, you can get shiny Charmeleon, you can get shiny Charizard. Which is such a weird thing that wasn't already the case. But I guess not. They've changed that. Because, yeah, it's the 10-year anniversary of Pokemon Go. Which is crazy to think about, but... yeah, I mean, I remember the summer it came out, it was the biggest thing in the world. Next up, they talk about Pokemon Masters EX. They're bringing Red from the OG Red and Green to the game. As well as they're doing, like, a whole thing with all of the player characters. Specifically, like, new versions of, like, Florian and whatever the girl... not Gloria. I don't remember what the Gen 9 girl is called. I know Florian is the guy. At least I think Florian's the guy. I don't know. But yeah, they're doing more stuff with Pokemon Masters. They were like, oh, it's the 6.5-year anniversary. No one gives a shit about 6.5-year anniversary. You can just say it's a 30-year anniversary tie-in. Like, no, people only care about 5s and 10s. Nobody cares about, like, 6 or 7. You know, anything in between that. And nobody cares about half anniversaries. You're not a 30-year-old wine mom Pokemon, where it's like, my birthday week. Like, fuck off. They talked about Cafe Remix. Hey, guess what? All the starters are going to be available in Cafe Remix. So for people who care about Cafe Remix, I mean, cool for you, I guess. Pokemon Sleep, they're doing Mew. Because, you know, people like Mew. Fuck. Is that my first death? I think that's my first death. Pokemon Unite, they're adding Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno. You can go play as them now. And then in the future, they're going to be adding the Gen 2 starters. I don't know. I've never cared about Pokemon Unite. You know, I don't care what you do. I'm not playing League of Legends. But I know some people do really like Pokemon Unite. I see it on my feeds. It's just some of the people I follow on Twitter play it. At least they used to. I haven't seen them post about it recently. But I don't care. It's Pokemon Unite. They talked about TCG Pocket. You know, we just checked out the new set. The new set came out like 2 days before the Pokemon Presents. But of course, they still had to advertise it and everything. Of course, they're also doing 30th anniversary rewards. 30 days of rewards for the 30th anniversary. That's cool. Next up, they talked about GameCube Nintendo Classics, where they're adding Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. It'll be coming out sometime in March, so sometime next month. They also did confirm that there will be no Pokemon Home connectivity. So, you know, while previously you could... I want to say you could trade your Pokemon from XD and Coliseum over to Fire Red and Leaf Green and / Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. You can't... You will not be able to do that. As well as it seems you will not be able to yeah, you won't be able to bring them towards home. I get it. I get it. We all knew that was going to happen. But, it, you know, it would have been neat if they could have made it work, but I understand that they couldn't. The Pokemon Company doesn't... People don't really care about XD or Coliseum. That's why the Pokemon Company is fine with them being, like, on the service and, like, things like, you know, save shares and whatnot. That's why people don't... That's why they don't care. I don't know. I've played both XD and Coliseum. I don't really care for either. They're okay, you know, they have their moments. It's the only reason I like Miss Magius. You know, Miss Magius was... It wasn't that Miss Magius or it's Miss Maggie or Mischievous. It wasn't that they are busted. It's that the AI is stupid. Go watch Sugar Conroy's Let's Play. Because you get to see that in Sugar Conroy's Let's Play. But that was my experience in my own playthrough. And it's just funny. It's just funny. And I'm already out. But yeah. Next up, they talked about Fire Red and Leaf Green. Of course, they're available now. I have already started playing them. Which, oh god, I didn't put that in the show notes. Maybe I'll put that somewhere in the show notes. But yeah, I have started Fire Red and Leaf Green. They're available now. There was a question of course, there were two questions people had. The first one was home compatibility. Will you be able to take your Pokemon and transfer them over to Pokemon Home? Kind of like what you could do when they released Ruby and Sapphire. Or not, I mean Red and Blue on the 3DS. And yes, they did confirm that eventually you will be able to take your Pokemon from Fire Red and Leaf Green and transfer them over to Pokemon Home, which that's good. That's good that you can do that. So in theory, in Pokemon Champions, you could use, you know, your team you used in Fire Red and Leaf Green. I mean, technically, if you still owned a real-life copy of Fire Red and Leaf Green, there is a way to transfer those Pokemon up to current generation, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of steps. As someone who has some, at least Gen 4 Pokemon, or no, Gen 4, Gen 5, as someone who has some of those in modern day Pokemon still, it's a fucking pain in the ass to do. And then the other thing, which they did not confirm during the Direct, but we found out later on. So one of the questions with the Fire Red and Leaf Green was if they were going to give us the Mirage ticket and the Eon ticket, which allows you to get Deoxys and Ho-Oh and Lugia. And while it was not confirmed by Nintendo, since then, people who have already beaten the Fire Red and Leaf Green remakes, the re-releases, did find out that once you beat the champion, you do get those items. So if you want Deoxys and Ho-Oh and Lugia, you can get them in the re-release. Which, to be fair, they did the same thing with Crystal when they re-released Crystal. And maybe some of the other ones, they gave you the GS Ball. It makes sense. I'm glad they did that. It would have been kind of dumb if they didn't. But hey, that's now a thing. Also, people have found out, this is just going off memory. I guess in the remakes, even though, you know, these are just supposed to be straight up ROMs, I guess they added in a censoring filter. So, like, if you try to name your character like fuck, it will censor it, which was not in the original release. You know, that's only something they've started doing in modern Pokemon games. Like, it doesn't surprise me at all that they did that. I'm just surprised that's the only change they made. Seemingly. But yeah, that has also... Like, I saw a video of it. So, it looks like that's a thing. So yeah, next up, Pokemon Champions. Of course, we got a new trailer for Pokemon Champions. And it's a classic, like, style of Pokemon trailer, where they're like, oh, what if we have, you know, a child fight an adult? And even though it looks like they're about to fist fight each other, in actuality, they're just Pokemon fighting. I feel like every Pokemon trailer can be summed up like that. Like, what if adults and kids played Pokemon together? Because that's kind of how it is, you know. The Pokemon Championships have age brackets and whatnot. And so we get the trailer. They, of course, do show off. They don't show off much new. I'm pretty sure this is our official confirmation, though, that all the new Mega Evolutions from Legends ZA will be in Pokemon Champions. We got a release window of April. We didn't get much more than that. We did, through Cerebi, I know we got some more. Like, they made, like, a website or something. And I know we got some, like, new character reveals. Let's see here. So yeah, we found out there's going to be like some new characters, like there's like a rancher, there's like a school or something. They're going to be doing a distribution event. There's going to be a Greninja event and a Dragonite event. There's going to be a Nintendo Switch starter pack. The starter pack comes with a unique perks. First box space for storing Pokemon is increased from 30 to 80. During battle, these track Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. You'll get 50 trainer tickets and 30 quick tickets. Okay. And then, yeah, I guess the game is going... So, this is rating from Cerebi. As with most mobile games, Pokemon Champions contains a battle pass. This will run periodically and offer a variety of rewards, including Mega Stones, icons, items, and more. These battle passes will be completely accumulating seasons, battle scores, and ranked. You'll get points based on how you perform in the battle, and they reset after each season. In addition to free rewards, there are also paid rewards. These rewards can be only obtained if you purchase the premium battle pass, including Mega Stones, outfits, and more. Because yeah, it looks, you're gonna have like a character you can customize. It's exactly what you'd expect. You know, this is no different than any other mobile game. You know, Pokemon has, for many years now, as much as I do not think it should be a thing, the Pokemon Company very clearly wants to monetize Pokemon. They believe that certain Pokemon should have a monetary value. And while that reads to me like fucking NFT bullshit, that's what the Pokemon Company wants, and clearly not a lot of people want to stop them. It doesn't surprise me. I know some people are excited for Pokemon Champions, you know, especially because it's going to use all the gimmicks and whatnot, but I can only see it as like a bad thing. That this is just the mobile gamification of Pokemon, which Pokemon already does some scummy mobile game bullshit. But this is them, you know, trying to fully like Fortnite-ify themselves, so that way you spend all the money in the world on them. It doesn't do it for me. But thank God we have reliable Nintendo, which will at least keep the mainline games pure. At least fucking hopefully. Next up, they talked about the Pokemon Legends ZA DLC again. For even though, you know, the DLC came out back in December, they talked more about it. Specifically, they officially revealed all the DLC megas, because technically those had never been revealed. And then they confirmed Mega Garchomp Z is real, which we already knew about, and they're doing a distribution event. So I did boot this up. You go, you download the distribution event, a portal shows up behind Quasartico, at least that's where it was for me. It's a 1-star portal, you go in, you beat up the Garchomp, you get the Mega Stone. Boom, bada bing, simple as hell. Is the Garchomp any good? I don't know. Normal Mega Garchomp isn't good, and this new one doesn't look to be any different. Next up, they talked about Pokopia. They revealed some new characters, Rotom's stereo form, Chef Dente. They talked about how you could visit other people's towns, and when you visit them, you could bring a Pokemon with you, which is, you know, that's a fun idea. On top of that, there are things that you can do when you hang out with your friends. Specifically, you can play hide and seek. So, you know, you can hide on your friends' islands, but also, on top of hide and seek, prop hunt. Which I did, I think, was it Wildcat? Someone in the Vanoss crew did a reaction to the Pokemon Direct, and I watched that just to see their reaction. And yeah, they were talking about like, oh yeah, let's do prop hunt in Pokemon Legends or Pokemon Pokopia, because that's when I think of people like Vanoss when I think of like Gmod prop hunt back in the day. Like that was the kind of fun shit, you know, that we used to do back in the day. Or Minecraft prop hunt was the other big one that, you know, used to be a lot of fun. Of course, they talked about how, you know, unlike Animal Crossing, you can actually work together to build stuff. They showed off that the legendary Raikou? I never know how to pronounce it, is going to be in the game. I do not care for Raikou at all. I like Entei, I like Suicune. Raikou just has never really mattered to me. The problem is, Suicune had Crystal. Entei had the third movie. Raikou had none of it. So as a result, I've never really felt any sort of attachment. And also, Suicune had the fourth movie as well. Now that I'm saying that. I don't know. But yeah, of course, Pokopia comes out next week. I am very excited. This is the type of game I have wanted from the Pokemon Company for a long time, and it looks like they're going to pull it off. So far, while I have not watched any previews, I've listened to people talk about the previews, and they've had nothing but great things to say about it. I guess there's a whole cloud thing as well, where instead of like, kind of like, you basically, you know how like people do like Minecraft servers, where, you know, you host a Minecraft server and like nobody, you know, you could just hop in at any point. I guess Pokopia works the same way, where you can just like host a server and you don't need like one main player to hop online. You can just go online whenever you want. That's fantastic. I know that kind of brings up like always online bullshit, but people don't care about that anymore. If SimCity had released in 2026, nobody would have cared about it being always online. I'll tell you that. And finally, our last big reveal, Gen 10 Pokemon Wind and Waves. So, the thing that sucked was we knew this. That due to the, at least, you know, if you pay attention to the leaks, which I know some people don't, and, you know, good for you, try to avoid them at all costs. But I've, of course, seen a bunch of stuff, even if I blocked Centro leaks years ago now, because that guy, fuck that guy. But, you know, I still see things, and so we knew about the title Wind and Waves, we knew about the tropical region, again, allegedly based on Indonesia. There's a few other things we know, you know, we'd seen some basic gameplay shit. There is one I specifically do want, so I'm going to go into one of the spoilers, just because I have a theory based on them, but we'll talk about it. So, this thing starts off with a sketchbook. You see the sketchbook, you see Pikachu, and then it flips through, and each page is a different region. Okay, obviously building towards Gen 10, Pikachu, this fluffy Pikachu comes out, he goes and he opens the door, and he finds the swinger Pikachus. You know, the ones who are eyeing you across the bar, and they like your vibe. Now, we'll talk about the website in a little bit, but we found out their names are Windy Chew and Wavy Chew, and it's not what like, you would expect Windy to be the girl, but no, Windy is the guy. At least I'm pretty sure it is. I could totally be wrong on that one. But no, they're called Windy Chew and Wavy Chew. And according to the website, they'll have some sort of role to play in your journey, just no more specific than that. It was definitely a weird way to start the trailer. I'll give them that. It was, when you start the trailer with that, that was not what I was expecting. The one thing I will say is, so, okay, this is talking about the leaks, so if you do not want to hear about the leaks or anything, you can just ignore me. And I tried to find where I read this originally, and I couldn't, but I remember seeing this somewheres. I didn't put it in my show notes as well, which pissed me off. So, allegedly, the legendaries for Gen 10 are this old man and this old woman who live on this island. And that's all we know. We know it has something to do with that. And again, allegedly they're more like humanoid, according to these, the leaks. What if that rule got changed? Because we know from, the leaked stuff for Scarlet and Violet that game heavily changed during development. What if, in the original Wind and Waves, you had, this old man and this old woman as, important characters that involved the legendaries? But what if they changed it to Windy Chew and Wavy Chew? What if these are our important characters? Because they're the first thing you show off in the trailer. They don't show off the legendaries. While I don't think Windy Chew and Wavy Chew are the legendaries, I'm gonna make a prediction that they have something to do with it. Especially based on the fact that they're not just like Pikachu in an outfit. Like they have like different colors and whatnot. They look like they're, remember how they did like Samson Oak for Gen 7? Where it's like, hey, it's shiny Professor Oak, but he has a tan. It kind of feels like that. It's like Pikachu with a tan. I don't know. I may just be talking out of my ass, but I fully do expect these two to have something to do with the legendary Pokemon. I just think that would make sense. And that would explain why they didn't show the legendaries here. Because instead they showed these two who are also equally important. That's my prediction right now. I'm gonna call it. So after that, we see the world. It looks to be, another Pokemon open world game. We see a bunch of different biomes. We see an island, a forest, a swamp, a volcano. These all seem to be just on a single island. Like, people have done analysis of, like, the starting area. And with the exceptions of, like, the swamp and the volcano, everything else seems to be around the same island. Like, there are shots where you can see the giant, like, spiral city thing in the background. So this, again, allegedly there's, like, 25 islands in this game. And this is just one of them. I think, yeah, they're starting us off pretty basic. And then we'll find out more later on. We see a bunch of Pokemon. I want to say people did the numbers, and they've already revealed like 50 Pokemon. Taking into account evolutions and pre-evolutions and whatnot. We know there's at least going to be 50 Pokemon. Which, yeah, okay, that's exciting. They have a lot of good ones. I'm glad my girl Gloom is back, and that means Vileplume. Duskull, Corsola is back, but I hope it leads to Cursula, because Cursula is one of my favorite Gen 8 Pokemon. I love that design so much. I had one in my Nuzlocke, and she was great. So I really hope we get that one back. Of course, we see this artificial town in the trailer. It looks like it's a resort. People have analyzed it, and it looks like it's got like cabanas and whatnot. So this weird like giant pillar is probably like a hotel. At least that's what it seems to be. It makes sense. We see the Gen 10 protagonists. There's a guy and a girl. We don't have names yet. From the website, we know their outfits are different based off of which game you're playing. And, in one game they have a cowboy hat, in the other game they have a baseball hat. But, of course, there are other differences. The one thing I noticed is in the girl's backpack, and the guy is holding it, they have, like, this, like... I don't know. I've seen some people say it looks like a long Pokedex. I'm pretty sure it's a hoverboard. Because, we're going to need some way to travel around this open world. And I doubt they're going to do, like, a Koraidon and Miraidon thing again. And while I have no problem with the player being able to ride Pokemon, like, if let's say you go out and you catch, I don't know, a Lapras, you can then just ride that Lapras. That would be really cool. I would really like that. But they might not do that. I don't expect them to, honestly. And instead, it looks like they're going to give the player character like a hoverboard or something, which that sounds cool. You know, being able to like hoverboard across the water, do like Mario Kart style tricks on the waves. That'd be cool. At least I think that would be. And of course, as you go on, you'll unlock like upgrades and whatnot. Then we see the first partner Pokemon, also the starters, you know. So we have Brout, who is the grass one, Pombon, the fire one, and Gekwa, the water one. I'll read their descriptions later when we talk about the website, but I think they're fine. I like Pombon. Pombon's probably my favorite. Gekwa, I've warmed up to. When I first saw Gekwa, I was like, oh, this thing looks kind of weird. It's got such a big head and, you know, big round eyes. I saw a lot of people compare it to Littlest Pet Shop. And yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's a pretty accurate comparison. But, you know, since then, I've seen a lot of fan art. You know, Pombom is the popular one. It looks like Gekwa, though, is the second most popular. And yeah, I'm warming up on it. Brat, I also think is fine. Like, I don't think any of these starters are bad. There's just, you know, there's some I like more than others. It's kind of like, you know, it's at least not Gen 8. Because Gen 8 was the first generation where I looked at the starters and was like, I don't like any of these. Even Score Bunny, the one I chose, I still didn't even really care for that much. At least with these, like, I like Pombon. Again, Gekwa's okay. I've warmed up to them. So, they at least have that going for them. After that, we see some underwater exploration. That's seemingly going to be a big facet of this game, is that you're going to be able to explore underwater. How exactly that's going to work, I don't know, but it sounds like a cool idea. My big hope is that we get variety. I don't want every underwater region to look exactly the same. Because for as much as we clown on too much water had always been a complaint of Gen 1. And the big complaint there had always been that it all looks too similar. That all the underwater regions in Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald all kind of looked the same. And then the remake didn't really do anything to help that. So I really do hope that in Wind and Waves, they do more with the underwater areas. What do I exactly want? I don't know. But like, maybe like give us like Subnautica style biomes. I don't want it to be scary like Subnautica. But maybe, you know, we've got one area which has a lot of like seaweed. Another area that's got coral. Another area that's like filled with like jellyfish. And, you know, like has these like giant glowing trees and whatnot. I don't need them all to be Pokemon. But make underwater, whereas Subnautica is scary, I want them to make the underwater feel magical. That's what I want. I don't just want the same underwater zone over and over again. Like, make it interesting. Make it fun, make it magical. That's how you do it. At least that's how I think they should do it. And then, of course, at the end of the trailer, we get the release 2027. That's not what I was expecting. That is not what I was expecting. I thought for sure it'd be this year. You know, this is the 30th anniversary year. I thought for sure we'd get something this year. You know, kind of like how a lot of people are expecting a new 3D Mario game this year because it's Mario's 40th. I mean, maybe they did it because, you know, they got something else to compete with. The other thing I will say about Pokemon is that we know GTA comes out in November. Pokemon usually comes out October or November. So there is the possibility they'd be competing against GTA 6. However, Pokemon is the one game series that I could see go toe-to-toe with GTA and not lose. Just because they're so vastly different audiences. I feel like if any other game, even Mario, went up against GTA 6, they're gonna suffer. But Pokemon is the biggest multimedia franchise in the world. All your parents are playing Pokemon, or all your parents are playing GTA, and all the kids are playing Pokemon. I think Pokemon could have gone up against GTA and been fine. And they're the only ones that I think could do it. I don't think anyone else could pull it off. But no, that's not going to happen. Part of me hopes that, in like a month or two, we find out what the legendaries are. And I feel like once we know what the legendaries are, and we start finding out about more Pokemon, we'll have like a firmer grasp on like whether this game comes out a year from now on Pokemon Day, or if it comes out in like a few years, or if it comes out in like November of next year. Because that was the thing with Legends EA, is they announced it, and then it didn't come out for like over a year and a half. I don't want them to do that again. If they need the time, take the time. But I really hope that, within the next year, we will have this game. Pokemon's done January releases before. That's never stopped them. So yeah, if they do a February release date next year, I would not at all be surprised. But if by June, we don't know if we get the big June Nintendo Direct, and we don't see anything about Wind and Waves during that June Direct, I think it is safe to assume that we're probably not getting that game until later into the year. I could totally be wrong, but I definitely feel like if it's coming out in February, we'd at least find out who the legendaries are by that point. But for now, we don't know the legendaries. I meant to look up how other Pokemon games have been revealed, because I feel like some games, they just reveal the starters, others they just reveal the legendaries. Most of the time they do both, I feel. Most of the time we see the starters and then the legendaries. So yeah, it was just kind of weird that we didn't see them, but whatever. So that's the Presents. Again, I still feel it's around like a 6 or a 7. Ha ha ha. He said the funny number. And not the good funny number. Not the millennial funny number. The Gen Z funny number. / Gen Alpha. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's somewhere around there. I didn't hate it, but it's all... I go into every Pokemon Presents with low expectations. And this one in no way surprised me. Alright, I'm gonna go get some water. I will be right back. Alright, I'm back. Oh my gosh. I had pizza earlier. It smells like pizza in here. Alright, let me... Okay, here we are. Let's head to the next world. So let's talk about the Wind and Waves website. So, it's the Pokemon Company. They put out a website for Wind and Waves. We have some basic information, and, not too many new details, but I do want to talk about them. So, the first thing that was kind of confirmed during the Direct, but also reconfirmed, is that Wind and Waves will be Switch 2 exclusive. I know there were some people, I wouldn't say myself included, but I definitely thought about the possibility that, the Switch is the best-selling Nintendo console of all time. Over 155 million units sold. In theory, if you're marketing a new Pokemon game, you want to take advantage of that 150 million player base. I understand that. That makes perfect sense. But also, I don't know if this game would be able to run on the OG Switch. First of all, that's the first thing. Second thing, Pokemon is very much a system seller. People will buy a new system just for Pokemon. They always have, some of the Game Boy Advance, I want to say the Game Boy Advance SP came out around the same time as some of the Pokemon games. The DS with Gen 4, the 3DS with X and Y. They didn't come out at launch, but they came out within a reasonable time frame. And you see the sales numbers start to pick up after that. The Switch Lite was specifically made for Pokemon fans, with Pokemon fans in mind. And I would not at all be surprised if we get the Switch 2 Lite around the same time we get this new thing. Because, people are going to want to buy a Switch 2. They're going to want the new Pokemon. So making a Switch 2 Lite that anybody could afford, that, $100, $150 cheaper, that'd be a big fucking deal for some people. That would sell a lot of systems, because their kids are going to want to play Pokemon. And that's how you sell Pokemon. So I do think that makes perfect sense. I don't know if they're going to do that, obviously, but yeah, it being Switch 2 exclusive does in no way surprise me. Because Pokemon is a system seller at the end of the day. Next up, of course, I mentioned earlier, your main character in this game will sport a different outfit based on which version you're playing. In one version, it's like a cowboy outfit, and in the other version, it's more, sporty. And yeah, I think both outfits are fine. I do hope there is character customization. One of my big problems with Scarlet and Violet is that they basically axed all character customization, when one of the good things about Sword and Shield was its amount of character customization. And Legends ZA agreed, because there is so much character customization in Legends ZA, and they've done some truly great things with it. I want them to go farther, obviously, but yeah, starting off with, at least you start off with different outfits. Because I'm assuming this is, kind of like how Scarlet and Violet had, different academies. This is kind of doing that. But yeah, I hope you can get each other's outfits in the games, and there's some more changes like that. But yeah, just don't get rid of character customization. I know not every Pokemon has had character customization. It's more, it's been more of a thing in the past, 8 years. But it's been a good thing in the past 8 years. People do really like that. Or at least just do better than Scarlet and Violet. God, my wrist hurts. I did something to it. Ah, fuck. Okay, let's talk about our starters. I had to sneeze real quick. Okay, so first we have Brout. Brout is the lively but clumsy Bean Chick Pokemon. Its Pokedex entry reads, this Pokemon runs about energetically while photosynthesizing using the leaves on its brow. It's lively, but it can also be a bit clumsy. So the name, obviously, it's Brout, as in brow, as in, you know, eyebrows, but also Sprout. That's clearly where the name is. It's a fine name. Obviously, you know, it gets across. It's like a potato seed, which, okay, you know, I'm going to do some speculation as well. Evolution-wise, I don't want it to just be, you know, walk on two legs style Blaziken or Decidueye again. Instead, I like the idea of it remaining, you know, instead of becoming like human-like, it remains more bird-like, kind of like something like Talonflame. And it becomes like an eagle or something like that. I think that would be cool. I've seen a lot of people make the Angry Birds comparison, but I prefer it to stay more bird-like and less human-like. Knowing the Pokemon Company, though, it's going to become human-like. I do not think it's the one most likely to become human-like. We'll talk about that. And it's not the one you think, I'm going to say. Probably not. But no, I think Brout is fine. Next up, we have Ponbon, the guileless and friendly puppy Pokemon. The area below its throat glows faintly from the heat-generating organ within its lungs. This Pokemon is guileless and friendly. It says that twice. Just thought, again, I like Ponbon. You can see the little glowing fire thing. It's very understated. Out of all the starters, Ponbon is the one that looks most like the animal it's based on and less like a Pokemon. I mean, it still very clearly is a Pokemon. It just looks less like one. Speculate, of course, the name is right, Pom from Pomeranian and Bon from Bonfire. I did see somebody point out that there is a Cassette Beast. So if you've never heard of Cassette Beasts is a Pokemon-like game. I actually own it. It's not bad. And it has a Cassette Beast, a monster, named Bomb, B-O-M-B. And they're not too similar. Like, that one obviously has more like bomb influence, but they're kind of doing similar-ish things. So yeah, it's just funny, you know, that's one of the first times I can think of, like, yeah, Pokemon and one of the Pokemon likes doing something very similar. I guess Creature Catcher, yeah, Creature Catcher is a better genre than Pokemon-like. If I had to speculate on this evolution, I do think this is going to remain on all fours. I know Skeledirge was a surprise, because it actually took a two-leg Pokemon and put it down on all fours. But I really do feel like people are so sick of firefighting, and the fact that Gens 3 through 8, all the starters look like firefighting, even if they aren't firefighting types, I feel like people are sick of it. Of course, what do I actually expect it to be? I have no idea. I've seen several people speculate that it's going to be based off of a mythological animal, which, I mean, there's a part of me that kind of wants it to be, you know, like the lion dog, like Arcanine. But I guess there's specifically like an Indonesian, like, fire spirit that is, you know, dog-shaped, so it probably will be based on that. But of course, we don't know that for certain. But I do think it's going to stay on all fours. I do think it makes the most sense for this thing to stay on all fours. I mean, I've seen plenty of fan art of making it look like the dogs from Undertale. And if it becomes, you know, a fire steel type, like the Night Dog from Undertale, I wouldn't actually have that much of a problem with it. I just don't see it actually looking like that. I just really don't. But my hope, though, is Fire Fairy. Someone pointed out we have never had a Fire Fairy type, and I think making a starter a Fire Fairy type makes a lot of sense. So I could see that. Where do I... Oh, I think I see it. Okay. And then finally we have Gekwa, which obviously Gecko and Aqua. Like, that's the most obvious name, even more than Pombon. It's the intelligent water gecko Pokemon. And then the Pokedex says, this Pokemon launches springy balls of water from its tail. Gekwa is very intelligent and maneuvers shrewdly while putting on airs. So, like, you know, I've seen some people speculate that, you know, its tail kind of looks like a paintbrush. So maybe it'll do something with that. And yeah, I can see that. I think that would make the most sense. You know, like Smeargle style. However, out of all the starters, this is the one that's going to be on 2 legs. You know, it already looks kind of feminine. Because Pokemon, for some reason, every Pokemon starter has like an 85% chance of being male. Probably has something to do with them breeding or Pokemon being a boys game. I don't know. But even like the very feminine starters, Delphox, Primarina, third example here, they all are primarily male, even if they look very feminine. And yeah, Gekwa already looks very feminine. I've seen, you know, people make comparisons to Drag, kind of like Quackwavel. And yeah, I can see that. I can totally see that. You know, the Gekwas for the gays, the theys, and everybody in between. You know, protect the dolls. And yeah, okay, that's cool. But yeah, it's gonna stand on 2 legs. We all know this. There's no way this thing ends up on all 4s. Out of all of them, this is our Sprigatito, where it's like this thing's gonna be on all 4s, and it will in no way surprise anyone when it ends up on all 4s. Like, no shit. But yeah, I definitely, when I first saw this thing, I did not like it. I didn't like the head shape. But, you know, fan art makes me warm up to things. And there's been some really good, really cute fan art. So yeah, I do like it more now than I did before. And so what other information from the official website? We of course got the names for the 2 Pikachu's parents. Their names are Windy Chew and Wavy Chew. Mr. Windy Chew and Miss Wavy Chew. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who made the joke about Pokemon, them being Pikachu's parents. But the fact that they have Mr. and Mrs. in their name, yeah, they're parents. Actually, I think it'd be really cute if they have, you know, a son, you know, little Pichu something. What would be between winds and waves? You know, if you had to make a third, because, you know, you have like Sword and Shield, and in between that you have Gun. You have Scarlet and Violet, and in between that you have Indigo and Teal. What would be a third? Wind, waves. My first thoughts are just like Sun and Sky, but we've already got Sun. Team Sky already rules the glorious sky. Winds, waves. I can see like like sunshine. So you've got Mr. Windy Chew, Mrs. Wavy Chew, and their son, Sunny Chew. You know, something like that. I don't know what I'd do for the third one. I do actually, you know, I say Pokemon Sword, Shield, and Gun. Technically, it was actually Sword, Shield, and Nuclear Bomb, because Eternatus is a metaphor for the nuclear bomb. And then finally, the final thing we got off the website is that they will have Brazilian Portuguese. You know, they added, you know, Nintendo's been on a roll of adding Polish to all their games recently, but it looks like Winds and Waves will have Brazilian Portuguese as a new player language, which, yeah, that makes sense. And then, of course, global release 2027. Yeah. I don't know what else to expect. See, the problem, I don't really have many other predictions. I do wonder if they're gonna, I do hope, okay, not predictions, but my hopes. Now that we have Pokemon Champions as the big competitive game, I hope Winds and Waves takes more influence from games like Legends Arceus, where, you know, it's more about not catching, well, yes, catching, but, you know, they lean more heavily into creativity around catching Pokemon. Just bring back Legends Arceus's catching mechanics. Those work so well. If you've never played Legends Arceus, it's potentially the best Pokemon game. It feels so nice to catch Pokemon in that game. And while, you know, Scarlet and Violet in Legends EA did similar-ish things, they just don't feel the same. And I want them to lean more heavily into that. So that's a big hope. You know, lean less into the competitive. We've got a new competitive game just for competitive, assuming people don't fucking hate it. That's the other thing. If Pokemon Champions bombs and people hate it, they'll just go to, you know, this new one. Yeah, I kind of want them to lean less into competitive, more into creativity, more into exploration. You know, bring in more than 400 Pokemon. You know, Sword and Shield, Scarlet and Violet, they each had 400 Pokemon, and then later with the DLCs added in 600. Start off with 600, and then maybe go from there. That'd be nice. At least I think it would be. Of course, I want the characters to be good. I watched PM7 did a good video recently about how Pokemon games are less lonely nowadays. And yeah, you know what, it's a good point. That back in the day, you know, it was just you and your Pokemon. And you'd occasionally interact with, like, characters, you know, more specifically a rival. And nowadays, you know, you have tons of characters in these Pokemon games. I don't know why I can't get this level. You're less lonely now than ever. And I know he talks about how that hurts modern games' replayabilities. I actually disagree. As someone, I've played Sword and Shield like 5 times. You know, yes, the characters can be annoying, and Sword and Shield has a fuck ton of problems. But hey, we are, as of probably this year, we are going to start seeing Sword and Shield revisionism. People are going to start saying Sword and Shield was always good. And you know what? Good on them. Because Sword and Shield, while not perfect, was better than people gave it credit for. I need to lock in. I'm doing awful at this level. Yeah, my prediction I said earlier, February, release it on Pokemon Day. People would really like that. There's a precedent. Okay, admittedly, Legends Arceus came out in January, but there's still basically a precedent. If you release it on January 26th, you still effectively made the 30th anniversary. That's good enough for me and most other people. But, you know, if you have to wait until November, then you'll wait until November 2027. That's also A-okay. The longer, you know, I'm one of those people who have said Pokemon needs to take their time, and if they are truly finally taking their time, I'm not going to complain. And with that, I guess let's move on to WIBE. So, I've got 2 food things, obviously. I've got a movie. I did go see a movie. Nirvana. I saw Nirvana, the band, the movie, the show, the movie. So I want to talk about that real quick. I don't actually have much to say on it, but I did see it, finally. I want to talk about Project Hail Mary, the book, because I did finish it. I then started reading The Martian, so I want to talk about that. And then we got a few other things. We got Animal Crossing. We've got, I started an anime. I started watching an anime for the first time in a while. I want to talk about Fire Red and Leaf Green. So we'll get to all of that. So the first thing I want to talk about is Burger King. So I don't know if you've read the news, but people were freaking out this week because for the first time in like 20 years, Burger King has made a change to its Whopper. They've changed the bun specifically. You know, people didn't like the old Whopper bun, so they've now got a new sesame seed bun. And then, because I guess people were complaining about their Whoppers getting like squished, they're now selling Whoppers in boxes. Kind of like what McDonald's does. Like if you get a Big Mac or a Quarter Pounder at Macca's, you get it in a box. Same thing. You'll get it in a box. And yeah, so I went to Burger King. Admittedly, I went to do the other thing because they also re-released the Maple Bourbon Barbecue Whopper. And so I went to try that. And while I was there, it was like, oh yeah, you know, new Whopper. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll try that as well. Can I be honest? I don't taste a difference. I know there is a difference. I don't taste it. I did not hate the old Whopper bun. Admittedly, yes, a Whopper is hit and miss. But the Whopper is hit and miss for more than just the bun. The bun was not the only problem with the Whopper. And I didn't really taste the difference. If I'm just being honest, it just tasted like any other Whopper I've ever had. Maybe some other people will probably disagree with me. I know, like, you know, when McDonald's make changes, first of all, they don't tell you. But also, you can definitely taste it. With this, I couldn't taste it. Might have just been me. Burger King only hits like every 1 in 10 times. This was definitely not a hit time. So yeah, I couldn't really tell the difference. And the new packaging, I was actually surprised. I only knew about the bun thing. I didn't know about the new packaging. So I was actually really confused. I was like, wait, why is the Whopper now in a McDonald's box? Like, what's going on here? Because they handed me like a much bigger bag than normal. And I was like, what's going on here? I guess, you know, that does help because I have had a squished Whopper before. I definitely have. So I guess that will help. I don't know. I mean, it's still cardboard at the end of the day. Cardboard, paper, it can both be recycled. Admittedly, I don't know how much you can recycle it because of the grease. That is, because that's the thing. Like, you can't recycle pizza boxes because of the pizza grease. It, like, fucks up the machine. So that might be an issue. But yeah, I couldn't taste the difference at all. The maple bourbon barbecue Whopper, you know, it's got like a bacon jam on it. It's got a bourbon sauce. It tastes fine. I've had this one before. Like a year or two ago, they did like a Burger King like make a Whopper contest, and they narrowed it down to like the top 3, and this was the one that won. And yeah, this is the one that should have won. Because I don't remember what the third one was, but the second one was like Mexican street corn. And the Mexican street corn one fucking sucked. Oh my gosh. But the maple, you know, it's bacon jam. It's barbecue. That's kind of hard to fuck up. And yeah, it's one of the better Whoppers. So yeah, I thought it was fine. It's still fine. Nothing, it's, you know, it's Burger King. They're not always great, and this was not one of those times where they were. But it's one of the better Whoppers you can get. Next up, let's talk about the Big Arch Burger. So for like a year now, on this show, we've been talking about the Big Arch Burger. If you don't know, the Big Arch Burger is the new big burger from McDonald's. They've been testing it in foreign markets, or not even testing it, just having it. So if you go to like the UK, if you went to Canada, you were able to find this Big Arch Burger for, again, like a year now. And they said like, oh yeah, it'll come to the US later this year. And they've been saying that forever. That, oh yeah, you know, we'll bring it to the US eventually. Because, you know, they had their new Big Arch sauce, which is like their attempt to do like reinvent the Big Mac sauce. Like this Big Arch thing is, you know, allegedly a big deal. At least for, McDonald's fare. This is their, this is the 2020 versions of the Big and Tasty. And so I've always, been curious, but not curious enough to, go to Canada to try it. Which, trust me, there are people who have been. But finally, this week, technically it does not come out until March 3rd. McDonald's, right, the official release date for the Big Arch Burger is March 3rd. But McDonald's is one of those places where they tend to put out their products like basically as soon as the store gets product, they will start selling it. Which is not always, like Wendy's, for example, they'll only start selling it on the release date. McDonald's, though, McDonald's is just like, yeah, we have it, we'll sell it. And so, of course, I checked on probably on Wednesday. And I was like, oh yeah, let me just see if they have it. And sure enough, they did. So the Big Arch Burger is 2 quarter-pound patties, the Big Arch sauce, crispy onion slivers, regular onion slivers, pickles, shredded lettuce, and white cheddar cheese. It's very much in the style of a Big Mac. It does not have a second bun, like how the Big Mac has that weird middle bun. That I think is fine. I know some people say it's too much bread. I disagree. But it's very much in the style of the Big Mac. Even if it uses more akin to a quarter pounder patty. They're clearly, Big Arch, Big Mac. They're very clearly trying to do something similar. And my thoughts on it, I think it's fine. If I had to compare it to anything, I'd say if the Big Mac is sweet, the Big Arch is savory. Does that make sense? Like I don't think of the Big Mac as a sweet sandwich, but Big Mac sauce is at least a little bit sweet. Whereas the Big Arch sauce is more savory. That'd probably be the difference I'd make. The crispy onion strings add a little bit of a crunch to it. I'd say it was fine. Is it worth a year of hype that I'd given it? No, not really. It's okay. I definitely would get it again, but I still do think that at the end of the day, I just like the Big Mac more. I like the Big Mac sauce more. I know some people say oh, well, it's just mayo and ketchup, or oh, it's just Thousand Island. It's not. It's not either of those things. Go ask Chef Mike about it. But I like the Big Mac sauce more. The Big Arch sauce is okay. As a portion goes, it's actually not bad. 2 quarter pound patties. It's a big it is noticeably bigger than the Big Mac. I'll give it that. I've seen some people say they couldn't even finish one, it was so big. I wouldn't go that far, but I mean, I am a fat guy at the end of the day, so I'm probably not the best judge of that. Price-wise, I don't think it was terrible. I want to say, Big Arch Burger, medium fries, medium drink. I want to say it was $10. That's not bad. Something similar at Wendy's or Jack in the Box is closer to 12, if not, 14. Jack in the Box specifically, I think is a Jack in the Box, ultimate cheeseburger with, you know, medium fry, medium drink is, I think, like $14. Wendy's, I think, is 12 for like a Baconator with, you know, that. I don't know. Those are just numbers off the top of my head. I'm definitely wrong there, but that would in no way surprise me. So yeah, price-wise, I don't think it's terrible. It's definitely more, you know, like when the Big and Tasty first came out, that was 99 cents. We've definitely fallen a long way since then. Everything has gotten so much more expensive. But as everything has gotten so much more expensive, this is one of the less expensive ones, for at least the amount of food you're getting. So yeah, I think it was fine. I kind of like anything else McDonald's does, I'd say try it. Try it. If you like it, good. If you don't, then you can just ignore it. I do not think we know if this is going to be like a permanent item or whatnot, or if this is just like a March thing. I don't think they've said yet. I wouldn't, again, I think it's a permanent in like Canada and the UK. I think it's a permanent item. So I wouldn't at all be surprised if it becomes a permanent item here. You know, kind of like what they did with the snack wraps. But you just never know with these sorts of things. So yeah. I guess let's continue on. So, Nirvana, the band, the movie, the show. Now, I heard about this movie mostly from people on Twitter. I saw people on Twitter talk about it and be like, oh my god, it's so good. You gotta go watch it. I know Shea Frillis talked about it. He did a video that was like, stop everything you're doing and go watch this movie. And like, by that point, it had already been on my radar. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go check it out. So, context that I found out after the movie. I knew none of this before the movie. This is Nirvana, the band, the show, is originally started off as a web series in 2008. I guess 2007, 2008-ish. It was a web series where two friends, Mitch and Jay... I think it's Mitch and Jay sounds correct. Matt and Jay. Okay, I was close. Matt and Jay, they have a band called Nirvana the Band. And their goal is to play a local venue called the Reveille in Toronto. I think they're in Toronto. So this was a web series in 2007. And then later, it became an actual TV show, you know, Nirvana the Band of the show, in 2017. So about 10 years later, they became an official TV show, and now almost another 10 years after that, almost, it's like 9, it became a movie. So that's where the crazy title is. You know, they're a band, Nirvana the Band, they had a show, and now they have a movie. I knew none of that context going in. I only found out that when I got home and I Googled it. And, you know, I was just curious, because I'd heard it was a good comedy, and so, you know, it keeps what I presume is the same concept from the web show, is that Matt and Jay, they want to play the Reveille, which is this local Canadian, you know, venue, and along the way, you know, they create these, like, harebrained schemes that will get them into the Reveille, and they just never work. You know, it's a mockumentary style, which I do like the mockumentary style. You know, I was a fan of What We Do in the Shadows before, you know, Taika Waititi became famous and sold out. You know, I was a fan before that. Okay, sold out is a strong word. But yeah, so this, you know, inherently interested me. Comedy-wise, it very much feels like improv. Like, they're you know how, like, in a movie, you know, like, oh, let's say they're filming in town. They'll, like, close off a street so that way they can film. You know, most movies do that. You know, whenever you see, like, set photos leak, it's because people sneak onto these, like, streets that are closed. This movie does not do that. You know, they were filming in Toronto, and, you know, people were just walking by as they were filming, and they'd, like, come up to them and ask them questions, and they just answer it still in character. Like, it very much has, like, that mockumentary style that, for the most part, I do think works really well. Again, it's funny. There's very early on, they go to, like, buy a pair of, like, pliers, and the guy they're talking to is probably just the real guy who worked at the store. The jokes... Okay, when it comes to the jokes, it wasn't, like, laugh out loud funny. Sometimes it was. There were some... because, okay, a whole part of this, you know, if in any TV show that becomes a movie, a big part of it with two friends is that they're going to stop being friends. You know, think like Regular Show the movie, where like they stop being friends. And also there's time travel. Yeah, this movie is, you know, Matt and Jay stop being friends and time travel is involved. And so when they first go back in time and we see like how they figure out it was 2008 was so fucking funny. That was such a good bit. There was another very early on thing where they you know, they come up with this crazy plan to get in, and then to actually see them try to do it was very funny. So there are some genuinely good jokes, but there's also a lot of jokes where I was just like, huh, that's funny. I didn't even do the ha, it was just like, that's funny. You know, you do that thing where you like nose snort, where you like blow air out of your nose and you're like, that's funny. Yeah, that's kind of the, at least that was for me. I'm sure other people will have different experiences. Definitely if you're a fan of, you know, What We Do in the Shadows, if you're a fan of like Nathan For You, or oh fuck, what's his name? I Think You Should Leave, Detroiters, The Chair Company. Fuck, what is his name? Fuck, why can I not think of his name? Tim Robinson, there we go. Yeah, if you're a fan of, you know, Nathan For You or Tim Robinson, this is definitely up your alley. You will definitely have a good time with this. I think there are some good jokes. There's big homages to other movies. Like at one point, you know, it's a mockumentary, so like they can't break the fourth wall because they're aware they're shooting a documentary. But also at one point they do just straight up break the fourth wall and are like, oh yeah, this movie's never gonna show again because of how many like references and whatnot that we're putting in here. But it's all good, it's all fun. This isn't like the Nostalgia Critic, Master Chief meets Mario. No, these are like actually like good homages to just, you know, the filmmaking you loved. And it goes off the rails. It's, again, I'm not giving any specifics here. I do recommend it. I'm not as high on this as other critics are, but I did still enjoy it. I'm glad I did see it. I did have a very weird experience where, okay, so I went to the theater. So, you know, this was not showing at the normal theater I go to. This was showing at like a smaller one. But I went, and all the pre-show ads were all for like Catholic organizations. It was like, hey, come check out our Catholic faith covenant. Come go to JesusLovesYou.com. How about come to our Catholic school? You know, send your kid to Catholic school. It was all like this Catholic stuff. And I'm wondering if someone saw the title, you know, Nirvana, the band, of the movie, the show, and we're like, oh, it's about like Nirvana, you know, that state of enlightenment. So it's a religious thing. You know, it's like I got the fucking trailers for like Solo Mia or some other, you know, Pure Flick style movie. It was really like, I'm sitting there, so it's me, and then there's a couple behind me, and a few chairs over from them, there's another guy. And at one point, the other guy is like, hey, what movie are we in? After like the 5th Catholic advertisement. And the couple's like, oh, Nirvana the band. And they were like, oh yeah, we were wondering the same thing. And I just speak up from like a row down, like, yeah, I thought I had walked into the wrong movie for a second. Cause yeah, that was wild. But no, it's a good movie. And I had to get like, I'd give it like an 8. Again, I liked it. I'm just not as high as some other people are on it. But I did like it at the end of the day. So at least it has that going for it. So next, let's talk about Project Hail Mary. So where I had last talked about it, I was like, it's like a 16-hour audiobook. And I was like 6 hours in. Since then, I have finished the book. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've seen some people talk about Project Hail Mary as like this revolutionary piece of sci-fi, like one of the best sci-fi works of the 21st century. I don't know if I'd go that far. I did really enjoy it. I do feel like if you're someone who doesn't read sci-fi, this will definitely be one of the best pieces of sci-fi you ever read. Because I already give Andy Weir a lot of credit for making some of the most approachable sci-fi. Like, there's a reason The Martian blew up. Because The Martian was very much, hey, anybody could read this and understand it. And Hail Mary kind of feels like, okay, we're taking The Martian and we're going one step beyond. What if, The Martian was very much grounded? Like, yeah, it's about a man being trapped on Mars, which is a total possibility in the next, I'm just going to say 50 years. Because, I mean, Elon Musk isn't going to fucking do it, but somebody might. Project Hail Mary goes one step beyond. And it asks, right, what if the stars are dying? Would humanity come together? Because I know that was a thing in The Martian, where, like, at the end, they talk about how, like, one of the things that, it's hopeful. The Martian and Project Hail Mary, to an extension, are very much hope-core science fiction. This isn't like the Q, this alien race who's just torturing humanity just because they can. No, The Martian and Project Hail Mary are very hopeful. They take a very hopeful view that, given terrible circumstances, people will come together and everything will work out in the end. And to that end, I did really enjoy Project Hail Mary. Again, I've read The Martian before. I've seen the movie. I really like the movie. I really like the book. And so, yeah, I was interested. And so far, I enjoyed it. It would be an easy recommendation from me. If you've, especially, like, if you see the movie when it comes out next month and you enjoy it, 100% go pick out the book. Like, if the book if the movie Project Hail Mary is as faithful to the book as The Martian was to the book, then yeah, it is definitely worth it. So I'm going to recommend it. I don't want to get into, again, if there wasn't a movie coming out in like 3 weeks, I would totally get into spoilers. I'm not going to. We'll talk about spoilers when we get to the movie itself. But no, I did enjoy it. Some of the ending I did see coming. There was specifically one thing at the very end of the book, I'm talking like the last hour, where I was like, okay, I saw that coming. I kind of figured how it was going to end. But there were other things I did not see coming, other plot twists that I did not expect, that I did really enjoy. Where it's like, oh yeah, this frames a whole new light on things. And it now makes you kind of want to reread it to see like how much of that was there the whole time. Okay, yeah, let's say that. It's going to be curious to see the movie, to see how they do everything. The one thing I will say, so if you've ever read Stephen King's biography / how to write a book on writing, I would highly recommend it. It's Stephen King's book on writing, literally called On Writing, but it also has his biography in it, which is why I read it. And in that book, Stephen King talks about how when you're in a story, sometimes you just need to set off a bomb. Sometimes, your characters are in a place and you just need to literally set off a bomb and blow things up to shake up the story. And Andy Weir writes like that. I think of in The Martian, everything's going well. He's, got his potato farm up and running. He's made contact with NASA and they're going to start, sending him a supply mission, right? Everything's going well. And then the airlock literally explodes, completely ruining his plan. Andy Weir sets off a bomb and it completely shakes up the book. But it does it in a good way. Project Hail Mary works the same way. Where, like, things are, it seems like everything's going good. And then a bomb explodes. And it's just like oh shit, what do we do now? How is this all gonna work out? It is very well done. I really like the characters. Grace is great. Spoiler alert, it's in the trailer, so I'm gonna say it anyways. Rocky is also really good. I'm very curious to see what they're gonna do with Rocky in the movie, because eventually Grace basically learns how to speak his language, and I wonder, are they just gonna do that in the movie? I really hope they do. Because, you know, we definitely see part of it, like, in the trailer, we see him, like, building a dictionary. But I really do hope they go all the way with it, and he learn, you know, who's playing Rocky is my question. But yeah, no, I did really like it. I liked the ending. I actually really did like the ending. I had to I listened to it originally, and then I had to go back and re-listen to it, just because, yeah, I did really like it. It was a good ending. And yeah, again, I'm not going to say much more than that. I recommend it. I'm glad I read it. I really hope the movie lives up to it. You know, it's Lord and Miller doing it. Ryan Gosling's a good actor. You know, Matt Damon was a good actor, and he pulled off The Martian. I think Ryan Gosling can pull off Project Hail Mary. So yeah, so far, I'm enjoying. I really enjoyed it, and I'm now more excited for the movie. I'm curious about what they're going to do with certain things, but I'm sure it's all going to work out in the end. At least I hope it does. I hope them, you know, I don't want this to be another Artemis Fowl. So what about The Martian? So after I finished, you know, listening to Project Hail Mary, I was like, I own The Martian. Fuck it. I'm just going to start reading that. I literally... This is literally my physical copy of The Martian. I have it right here. Let's see. Douglas Preston, astronaut Chris Hatfield, of course fucking Ernest Cline. Why does Ernest Cline just do the back of every book? Why the fuck is Ernest... Like, I have so many books where Ernest Cline is like the quote on the back. I get it. Ready Player One was popular. That book is fucking garbage. The movie's okay. And the movie only works because they got Spielberg. I feel like if you had gotten anybody else to do it, it would have fucking sucked. And it's not even that great. Why is fucking... What was the other book where Ernest Cline was on the back? Was that... I don't think it was a car... Maybe it was that Super Nintendo book I read. Or I started and, you know, immediately got distracted by so many other things. But yeah, so I have read The Martian before. I read it after the movie came out. Because, yeah, I saw the movie first. I liked the movie a lot. So I read the book. And I also really enjoy the book. What makes The Martian so good is that it is very much approachable science fiction. It's very grounded. You know, it feels like, hey, if an astronaut actually did get stuck on Mars, this is how it would play out. You know, it feels very realistic and very grounded. And I do really like it. I'm a big fan of The Martian. Yeah, it feels very approachable. And the movie is the same way. The movie, you know, like the big change they make between the movie and the book is that in the book, he types all of his journals on like you know, it's like a journal. It's literally he's writing a book. Whereas in the movie, they just make it a video journal. And it's such a simple change, but it allows you to get the same style of exposition out. Sure, is it stupid that sometimes, you know, like the rover just crashed, and instead of trying to fix the rover, he's just in there, you know, typing on his computer? Yes. Yes, that is sometimes dumb. But I do like it. I do really like this book. It is an easy recommendation from me. I'm not too far into it. I'm literally up to the point in which the airlock explodes. That's the reason why I bring it up, because it was fresh on my mind. So, right, he gets stranded on Mars. Afterwards, he sets up his potato farm. He tries to make water, and that explodes on him. Afterwards, he then He goes and gets the rover, which I love that. I love how he does the whole rover thing. He recovers it, powers it back up, and then they do the ASCII. That's such a great moment. Like it's just one of those really clever things. And then as he thinks everything's going fine, you know, he's got 900 days worth of food. He's made contact with NASA. It's at that point in which the airlock blows up just for no reason. Again, when you set off a bomb, sometimes it just has to be for no reason. He does nothing wrong, and the airlock still explodes. And all of a sudden, it completely endangered. You know, he's now on the clock. And so yeah, I'm enjoying my reread of The Martian. It's a lot shorter than Project Hail Mary. Like, looking at the book, this looks a lot shorter than Project Hail Mary does. And so I'll probably, by next week, I will definitely be done with it. I'm also, after I finish it, I'm going to rewatch the movie. That is definitely in my plans. Because, again, I remember really liking the movie. And so, you know, whereas before I watched the movie and then read the book, this time I'm reading the book and watching the movie. But I remember it being fairly accurate. Let's talk about Pokemon. So, I've been playing Pokemon Fire Red. I thought about streaming it. I thought, like, oh, you know, maybe I'll save it and do it on stream. I'm really glad I didn't. I'm getting my fucking ass kicked. Because, okay, here's the thing. I like modern Pokemon because it is less grindy. Yes, it is easier. Pokemon has never been difficult, though. Like, that's the thing. Pokemon has never been that difficult. But I just feel like the modern games add so many, like, quality of life improvements that people definitely take for granted. And replaying this older game, yeah, I've definitely taken it for granted. Have I been grinding? Yes. Yes, I have been grinding. Mainly because I chose Charizard, or Charmander. And if you know anything about Gen 1, the first two gym leaders are Rock and Water. Charmander's two big weaknesses. This is why you pick Bulbasaur, people. And so, yeah, I had to fight Brock 3 times. First time, I got my ass kicked. Second time, it went a little better, but I got my ass kicked. Third time, what I ended up doing on Brock 3, I started off with Pikachu. Because admittedly, part of my grinding, you know how, like, I feel like in most playthroughs of Gen 3, you look for the Rolts. Because, you know, the Rolts is like the rare encounter. So here in Gen 1, it's like, okay, the rare encounter is Pikachu. Fuck it, let's get a Pikachu. So it took me probably almost an hour to find just one Pikachu. But I did find a Pikachu. I don't remember what I named it. I named it Shane. Because I was listening to Smosh Read's Reddit stories, and so I named it Shane. So you've got Landia the Charmeleon. He's currently a Charmeleon. You've got Landia the Charmeleon. You've got Shane the Pikachu. I bought the Magikarp, and I named the Magikarp Kracko. So you've got Kracko the Magikarp. I'm not really going for a theme. I just felt like, you know, it made sense. So I've got that. And yeah, so the first battle, I sent out the Pikachu. I paralyzed the Onix, because the Geodude was no problem. The Geodude, I send out Charmeleon, or I guess it was Charmander at the time. I send out Charmander, I use Ember, and the Geodude dies in like 2 hits. Geodude's not bad at all. The Onix, though, was just rock tombing and killing me instantly. Even though Charmander had Metal Claw. Metal Claw would like 2-shot the Onix. But the problem is, you get 1 hit, the Onix then gets rock tomb, super effective, and just kills you. Because I'm also like 2 levels under it. I'm not like super under leveled, but I'm definitely, yeah, like 1 or 2 levels under it. So, okay, I send off Pikachu. Pikachu uses Paralysis, and then I had it use, I think, Growl twice, so that lowers its attack. I then send out Rattata, who the Rattata's name is Eric? I think it's Eric. I think I named it Eric. And so the Rattata uses Tail Swipe twice. It's killed. So by this point, it's got 2, it's paralyzed, 2 defense, 2 attack lowers. Then I send out Pidgey. Pidgey is level 5 and no sand attack. But, I also send out a Metapod and use a Sticky Web, so it's slow. So I also slowed it down. The Metapod, I think the Metapod's name is like Nugs. I have a Metapod named Nugs and a Kakuna named Mac. I don't know why. I don't have methods to my madness. I just did. So I have those 2. And then they Sticky Web and then immediately die. Like, both of those guys just immediately fucking die. They suck. And then after that, the Pidgey comes out. It's faster because it's been Sticky Webbed. And the Pidgey is able to Sand Attack it. Sand attacks it 3 times. And for a second, I thought the Pidgey might kill it, because between 3 sand attacks and paralysis, it went probably 10 turns without getting a single hit. And I just had the Pidgey spamming Tackle over and over again. And it eventually kills the Pidgey, and so I send out Charmeleon, Metal Claws, one-shots it. So I definitely nerfed the Onix, but it worked. After that, I went on to the next route. I've been fighting every trainer. I've been tentatively catching everything. I caught the Jigglypuff. I caught the Jigglypuff. I caught the Nidorinas. I caught a few other things. I'm not like going out of my way to catch everything, but if it comes up, I will do it. I go into Mount Moon. I catch a Geodude, which I did name Rocky after Project Hail Mary. So I have never used the trade evolutions in Gen 1. I've never used Alakazam, I've never used Golem, I've never used Machamp, and I've never used the other one. Gengar. I've never used any of those 4 Pokemon. So while currently I do not have a way to evolve Graveler, and not that it's still a Geodude at this point, but even though I do not have a way to do that, I will somehow figure out how to do that. That is a problem for a future me to figure out. But so far, I caught that. I caught it Abra. Did I name it? I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl. I either named it Zatanna or Zataro, depending on if it was a boy or girl. Whatever the Abra was. But yeah, I've got the So my current team is Charmeleon. Charmeleon named Landia. The Magikarp named Krako, who is level 15. Finally, I had to grind to get it to level 15, but it now knows Tackle. So hopefully, that's not going to take too much longer. I've got Geodude named Rocky. I've got an Oddish named Ivy. I've got Chain the Pikachu. And then there's definitely one more, but I do not remember who it is. Oh, I've got a Sparrow. Because I don't want to use, I've used Pidgey before. It's the bird, it's the basic bird type everybody uses. So I was like, fuck it, let's get something different. So I'm using Sparrow for the first time ever. I don't actually know if Sparrow's any good. I'm going to trust in Team Sky that it'll all work out. In the glory of the sky. But I'm using Sparrow. I do not remember what I named it. I named it something, could not for the life of... It's like level 9. It's like 6 levels lower than everything else. Because it's the one, I've used the least. The only other thing I did do was, if you don't know, in Fire Red and Leaf Green, there's a glitch where if you complete the Nugget Bridge and then go talk to the guy at the end, he will give you a nugget and then ask you to join Team Rocket. You obviously say... The game doesn't even give you a choice to say no. You just automatically say no, and then he fights you. If you lose that fight, and then go back and talk to the NPC, he will give you another nugget. So in theory, you can get infinite nuggets, and all it costs you is time. So that's exactly what I did. I went and I got a dozen nuggets. Well, a baker's dozen. And so my plan is to buy a Dratini. Or maybe a Porygon, but definitely a Dratini. Because I don't think we can get Porygon 2 in this version. Even though I've never used Porygon. I've also... The only time I technically have ever used Dragonite is in Legends ZA. Where I had Mongo the Dragonite. But that was like mainly a post-game DLC thing. So I barely count that. But yeah, my goal right now is to get that Dragonite. Which you can get at the casino. Very early on. So that's my plan at the moment. I don't... the problem is, if you ever played one of the old Pokemon games... I saw someone post this on Twitter. That was like modern Pokemon players going back to the old games and realizing HMs are a thing. That's honestly been my biggest fear with this game. I famously hate HMs. I think HMs are the worst thing in old Pokemon. And because you basically have to give up a slot. You know, Pokemon gives you 6 team members. Really, you only have 5. Because one of them becomes an HM slave. Or an HM, I don't know, whatever the more PC term is nowadays. Yeah, I do not like HMs. Definitely Gen 7 made the right move in getting rid of them. And even the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl remakes, and the Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee remakes, kept them gone, which was definitely the right move. So I don't got to deal with that. Or at least, so I'm going to have to deal with HMs. So I will definitely need an HM Mule. I guess HM Mule is probably the more PC term. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll figure that out when I get here. Like, I'm going to teach the Gyarados Surf. I'm going to teach the Pharaoh Fly. Maybe I'll teach the Dragonite Fly, depending on how things shake up. But for, Cut, Rock Smash, Strength, I have no idea what I'm going to do. That's future me's problem. The other thing I forgot about, so I knew like the HM was going to be a thing. I also forgot Fire Red and Leaf Green is before the physical special split. So all fire type moves are special moves. All rock type moves are physical. At least I think they're physical. I don't know. I admittedly don't. What was the physical special split? I haven't dealt with the physical again. I have not played a Gen 3 game in so long. So let's see. Normal is a physical. Fire is special. Water is special. Ice is special. Grass is special. Poison is physical. Rock is physical. Ground is physical. Psychic is special. Fighting is physical. Electric is special. Bug is physical. Dark is special. Ghost is physical. Steel is physical. Dragon is special. And flying is physical. So if you do not know, because you were not around then, you were not born yet, way back in the day, Gens 1, 2, and 3, types were determined whether a move is physical or special. In the modern games, obviously a move like Flamethrower is going to be special, and a move like Fire Punch is going to be physical. That was not always the case. That only became the case starting in Gen 4. And I kind of completely forgot about the physical special split until I started playing the game. And then was like, oh wait, my Charmander is special, isn't it? I've got to, oh my gosh. So like stuff like Metal Claw isn't going to be as effective. Because if Charmander is, if Charizard, Charmeleon is more, special oriented, they're just not going to have that. I mean, that would still be the case nowadays, but yeah, physical special split, definitely a thing. Again, I think the big hurt there is, poison. Like Bulbasaur, grass is special, poison is physical. That kind of sucks. But yeah, that's totally a thing I will have to deal with. Fairy type doesn't even exist yet, so I don't got to worry about that. Yeah, it's just, it's one of those weird things from early Pokemon that they did eventually fix. It just took them a while. At least, I think abilities... I know abilities are a thing, because my Pikachu paralyzes everything that touches it. Which is actually very nice. Oh, that is so nice to have. So yeah, you know, I'm gonna continue playing Fire Red and Leaf Green. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't do it on stream, that's for sure. But, you know, it's Fire Red and Leaf Green. Another weird change they made is, so, right, A and B still work as A and B, but instead of making X and Y just A and B2, they made X and Y start and select, on top of, you know, start and select still being start and select. So if you press all 4 face buttons while playing the game, you restart the game. Because, you know, in the early generations of Pokemon, if you pressed A, B, start, and select, it would restart the game. Makes shiny hunting easier, but yeah, it's very easy to accidentally restart the game. It hasn't happened to me, but I've seen it happen to other people. Or at least other people talk about it on Twitter. So yeah. Let's talk about Animal Crossing real quick. So, last week, I talked about how I bought Turnips, and then I got fucked over because the shop was closed on Wednesday, and Wednesday was my large spike day. You know, I finally got a large spike, and yet it was when the shop was closed. So, normally, after you get a large spike, the chance of the next week also being a large spike is only 5%. It is very low. I hit that 5%. So I had 2 large spikes back to back. The problem is, I didn't put that much money into Turnips because I figured it was just going to be decreasing. So I only put 100k in. I did not put that much money into Turnips. And I'm probably not going to put much money into Turnips next week either, assuming I remember. Because yeah, I probably got fucked over by that. But no, so I got a large spike of Turnips. I made 500k, which was nice, you know, I at least made some money off of it. Technically, I could pay off my house, but I didn't because, you know, Turnips. I'm going to save up and see if I can make a little bit of money anyways. But yeah, other than that, you know, Animal Crossing's going good. I built all my inclines that I wanted to. My island is very different than when you last saw it. I'll tell you that. I did things very different. I've changed things up a lot in the past 2 weeks. But, yeah, I mean, it's probably closer to 3, but still. I don't know, I'm still having a good time. I finally got, pillars and displays in the Happy Home Academy, or Happy Home Paradise. So I finally can make pillars, so I put up a partition wall in my main room. I don't know what else I'm going to do with them, but I'm happy to have them. It's at least a good thing to have. Yeah, I'm still enjoying Animal Crossing. Will I probably give the game up when Pokopia comes out in like a week? More than likely, yes. But so far, I'm enjoying it, and I'm making good progress. I had to do a big thing where, because the pufferfish, today was the last day to get the pufferfish. So yesterday, I was like, okay, I need to get the pufferfish. So I hunkered down. It actually was stupid easy. I got it on my, like, second try. But I also did get the sturgeon. You know, the sturgeon only appears at the Mouth's River. Finally got a sturgeon. I've definitely, there's dockfish. I have definitely let at least like a tuna and whatever the other one. I know there's 2 of them, the tuna and something else, the marlin. I keep fucking them up. I see like these large dockfish and I just am never fast enough. And I fucked it up at least 2 times, if not more. So I'm struggling with that. But yeah. You know, still Animal Crossing. Let's talk about anime real quick. So, this will definitely be a thing next week. But I've been talking for a while now about finally starting my Dress Up Darling. Because I'd seen the first season of the anime. I saw it back around when it originally came out, and you know, I enjoyed it. I watched the dub. I think the dub is fine, you know. I like Amelie. I think she's a good voice actress, and I think she's a great fit for the role. So yeah, I do enjoy My Dress Up Darling. I do have issues with it. My biggest issue is that they're high schoolers. Like, I know, oh, in Japan, they're all consenting adults, technically. Like, legally speaking. Like, yes, that's technically true, but as someone who is 10 years older than them, definitely seeing this girl strut around in a bikini and have no, you know, shame whatsoever about being naked definitely makes me feel very uncomfortable. So, you know, and I stand by. If they had just made them all college age, if they were just college age kids, I feel like nothing would have to change about the show. All the dynamics would still work the same. Sure, would it be weird that Gojo is doing, you know, going to college instead of just, you know, taking over his grandfather's shop? Sure. But I bet there's a way the show could explain that. Like, the grandfather wants him to go to, like, college, to go to, like, business school. And so that way, you know, when he takes over the shop, he'll be able to run it successfully. Or just something like that. Like, I'm sure there's a way to explain it, where Gojo is in college, and so that way he can meet Marin, whereas Marin could be in college for, you know, whatever. There is definitely a way to make that work. But nope, instead they're in high school, and it definitely gets very creepy at times. But the characters are both very likable. I'm like 4 episodes in. I just did the one where, you know, Gojo stays up all night working on the outfit for Marin and is like super panicked that he doesn't think he'll finish it in time. Only to then when he finally shows it to her, she freaks out because she was like only joking about going to the cosplay event and didn't want him like working himself to get death. Like, it's kind of hard to watch in some cases, but that's only because it's, like, really good at what it does. Like, you know, Gojo working himself to death on this thing, and then Marin breaking down because she feels really guilty. Like, that's a really good episode. I did really like that. But, yeah, it's a good show. You know, I have my hang-ups with it, but other than that, I do really enjoy it. And I rewatched the first season, and by next week I should have both seasons done. You know, it's very much one of those shows that you can easily blow through. Like, it's not very complicated. But yeah, I know I said I was gonna watch it for a while now, and finally, like this week, I was like, you know what, let's start it. So yeah, this is the last level we're doing. After we beat this level, we're done. You know, we're like halfway-ish through the game. I think it's a little bit less. I think I can't remember if there are 8 or 9 worlds before the post-game. I want to say there are 8 worlds before the post-game, and then there are 2 worlds in the 2 or 3 worlds in the post-game. Okay, I think it's actually 4. That's including, you know, World Crown, which is, you know, the Champions Gauntlet. That only has like 2 levels. So, regardless, I think we're about halfway through the main game. Maybe a little less. But we're making good progress. You know, we've got to play as every character, which is nice. Because once we hit that post-game, we're only playing as Rosalina, by the way. Rosalina is the best character in this game, bar none. And, you know, eventually, depending on how long this takes, we will be playing this when the Galaxy movie comes out. Still, like, we'll be finishing up this game around the time Galaxy comes out. Probably. Anything else coming up? I don't know. I've been having issues with my phone. Fucking... You know, I was very curious. I remember when these flip phones first got announced. I was like, oh yeah, you know, those seem interesting. And yeah, sometimes it's really nice, but other times it's just really annoying. And I've been having issues, and I'm like, maybe I'll replace it. I don't know. It's one of those, I bought it 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago today. Not today, but you know, like this month. And you know, planned obsolescence. Phones are only supposed to last for like 2 years. So I might be in that scenario. I mean, if it was an Apple product, it would definitely be. But fuck Apple. They only have a decent TV streaming platform. Other than that, I do not care for them at all. So I guess let's go into the outro. So coming up in the next week, of course, we're going to keep working on 3D World. I don't really have anything else planned. I feel like every studio has had their big direct. Xbox did one, PlayStation, Nintendo did a partner showcase, Pokemon did their thing. I don't feel like we're going to have another direct for a while. I mean, Nintendo could Nintendo at any point, but I don't see them doing anything in March. Like, they could possibly do something in April. They did the big Switch 2 direct in April of last year. I could see them potentially doing another big direct in April of this year. But if that doesn't happen, the next thing we'll hear from Nintendo is June. I'm sure we'll hear from Xbox and PlayStation at some point. I don't know. You know what I didn't talk about? Stardew Valley. They announced the new Stardew Valley update, and it's going to have 2 new marriage candidates. Sandy, who, people really wanted. Which, yeah, Sandy's great. Of course we wanted her. And then Clint. I know some people are very mad that Clint is, one of the marriage candidates. People wanted the wizard. I don't blame them at all. But, maybe this will actually make Clint, like, a good character. That he'll stop being, one of those fedora-wearing Reddit users. And, maybe they'll change Clint and make him likable. Or maybe he'll just call you Milady a bunch. I don't know. That's a cool. It's cool. They don't need... Concerned Ape doesn't need to keep supporting Stardew. I want them to work on their next project. But I'm not mad that they keep supporting Stardew. Oh god, speaking of games getting support. Fucking Balatro. So Balatro got its Switch 2 update. Improves the frame rate, and it adds mouse controls. Awesome. Love that. I love that they're doing a Switch 2 update for Balatro. Not needed, but it's cool that it's happening. And we're still waiting for the 1.1 update. However, on the Switch 2, like with games like Hades and Silksong, you just get an upgrade pack. With Balatro, it's a whole new game. So if you download Balatro on Switch 2, you have to restart your save file. That fucking sucks. That's stupid. I have no idea why it works like that. At least it's free. If you already own Balatro digitally, not physically, digitally, you get the upgrade for free. But that sucks that you have to restart your save file. Admittedly, I've already restarted my save file once. It works fine. I've tried out the new mouse controls. They actually work, they play like how they do on PC. It works fine. It's just dumb that you had to restart your save file. This should have been an upgrade pack. I don't know why it's not an upgrade pack. Give me, not cross saves, but just figure out something. I know games can read save data from other games. There's gotta be a way for you to import your save. I'm sure Local Thunk could figure that out. But other than that, no, it is a good... I'm glad it's got a Switch 2 version, and I'm just waiting on that 1.1 update. It'll happen eventually. But yeah, with that, we're going to end off here. And yeah, we're, next week is episode 10. We're a fifth of the way through the year already. January took forever. This month went by so quickly. But now we're at war. And God, who knows what's going to happen from here. Who knows how slow it's going to go. But assuming, the world is still standing, we'll be here next week. So I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. Till next time, peace.